What's up, YouTube? JM Comics here, and today we're gonna talk about Bruno, but not specifically Bruno, more like Encanto as a whole and how it compares to another Disney movie that came out in 2021, Eternals. Now, if you don't know, Encanto and Eternals are both Disney movies from the year 2021, one under Disney proper, Encanto, and one under Marvel, Eternals. And in this video, I'm going to explain why Encanto was a smash hit and actually had a good story and a good movie, while Eternals was kind of trash, very much trash. It's my least favorite movie from last year, and I'll explain why and why it's way worse than Encanto, and how they both handle different aspects that are similar between them differently. And before I start, remember to like, subscribe, and comment down below which of these movies you like better. I know it's Encanto. Comment why you like Encanto better than Eternals, and why Eternals was such a letdown and disappointment. Now, without further ado, let's get right into it. So, first off, like I said, both these movies are from Disney, and I guess that's just a fact. It's just true, and it doesn't make either one of them better than the other. Except for Encanto's from Disney proper, Eternals from Marvel, that's it. Both movies feature large, diverse ensembles. And here's the thing. Diversity is important in modern day movies, okay? But diversity can't be the identity of a movie, and it can't be a crutch for a movie to stand on. Eternals uses diversity as a crutch to stand on because it has no relevant plot. Like, the plot is so bad that the movie has to tout the fact that it has a diverse cast, but the cast doesn't get to do much because the movie's not good. It's like, it gets to brag about being one of the most diverse Marvel movies, but it's not a good Marvel movie, and I feel like they use the diversity card as too much of a crutch for a bad movie. Meanwhile, Encanto handles Colombian culture way better than, like, Eternals handles any of the cultures it tries to tackle. Encanto works the culture into its music, it works the culture into the setting, it works the culture into the characters' personalities or whatever, like Abuela Alma, which I'll get to later. But everything about the culture works with the story, and it makes the story better, while Eternals uses it as an excuse to be bad. Or even not as an excuse to be bad, it just has it as a side thing, even though it's still a bad movie. So yeah, Encanto definitely handles diversity way better than Eternals does. And another fact is they both start with the word E, with the letter E. I just thought of that. I mean, I don't think it's that relevant to either one of them, but it's a fact. It's true. They both start with V. Both movies feature radically different female protagonists, okay? And listen to me when I'm saying here. Eternals had a very robotic and monotonous protagonist, okay? In Cersei. Cersei was boring. She was kind of, like, her power was way too OP, and she really didn't do anything. Like, she did a lot of things, but her personality didn't give any flair, any style to the movie. Her personality was kind of generic protagonist, okay? Meanwhile, our other female protagonist from Encanto, Mirabel Madrigal, actually has a vibrant and energetic personality, and she has many personal stakes in the conflict going on, because she's the only member of her family who does not have powers. So, she has a more personal connection to the story, unlike Cersei, who's just, like, doing it because, I don't know, she got chosen by Ajax. And Mirabel also has an interesting personality. Like, she's a fun character, and I forgot the actress's name, Stephanie Beatriz. She does a really good job of portraying Mirabel in Encanto, and I don't have a problem with Gemma Chan playing Cersei. I mean, it's not her fault the movie was written really bad and the character was written really bad, but yeah, it's just a fact, okay? Next is probably the biggest similarity between both movies, and what really proves why Encanto is a deeper, more thought-provoking movie than Eternals. And it's very ironic, because Eternals is a movie that's trying to be really complex and subversive with its story, with its storytelling. Meanwhile, Encanto has kind of a simple plot, but it's a simple plot executed really well, compared to Eternals' disgusting mess of a movie. And both movies, here's what I'm trying to say here. Both movies provide plot twists at the end, where the leader of the team, the Madrigals or the Eternals, which is Abuela Alma in Encanto and Icarus in the Eternals, is revealed to be the main villain of the movie, or the main antagonist of the movie. And both movies try to sympathize, or create sympathy for the villain and what they're doing. And with Eternals, they're like, well, Icarus was born that way. He was led his whole life to believe this is what he must do. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of do feel some sympathy for Icarus. I think that's one of the ways that the movie works, but they still botch him, don't worry. And in Abuela Alma, they show you her flashback and how Abuelo Pedro died to protect her or whatever. And that gives her an understanding motivation for why she's so strict on her family to uphold their gifts. Yeah, basically. And this is so complex to talk about because these movies are like they're so similar and so different at the same time. But yeah, anyway, what I'm trying to say here is both movies have villains that are pretty sympathetic because they were originally the leaders of their teams. And both movies attempt to redeem their villains, but it's pretty obvious that Encanto does this 10 times better than Eternals does it. In Encanto, they provide, well, in both movies they try to provide the root cause for the villain's problems, and the moment where they redeem themselves or like realize the error in their ways, we get a flashback into their past. For Encanto, we get to see Abuelo dying and giving up his life so that Abuela and the kids can escape the conquistadors. I don't know, the soldiers, those guys in armor, yeah. And after that moment, Alma understands what she did wrong. Meanwhile, in Eternals, he basically almost killed his entire team. Then he goes to Cersei while she's on the hand of Tiamat, one of those big celestial things. I haven't seen that movie in a while. But the point is, he goes up there to her or whatever, and he gets a flashback to the stupid sex scene that was earlier in the movie. And there's no real connection between these two characters. I don't know why they're trying to flash back to that scene as if it's gonna make a difference. Yeah, into their marriage and stuff. It's not gonna make a difference in how we feel about them because they don't have any chemistry together. We barely see them doing anything like romantic in a genuine feeling way. So why would this flashback impact me? So both movies provide the root cause of the villain's problems, but Encanto actually gives you an emotional root cause for the villain's problems, while Eternals just shows you something that we've seen before also. Yeah, in Encanto we hadn't seen that scene before. We'd seen parts of it, but we hadn't seen the whole scene. In Eternals we'd seen these scenes before, so they were just showing us scenes from earlier that were not even good scenes to begin with. And the final thing between these two villains is that one villain truly redeems himself and makes things right, which is Abuela Alma. After realizing the error of her ways, she apologizes to Mirabel and she breaks out crying because she understands she did something wrong. And rather than take the chicken way out and like leave, or as you'll see of Icarus off themselves, she actually I don't know what I'm saying here. She actually puts the effort forth to redeem herself and to help her family from what she's done. To help them rebuild the house, to show them that they don't have to be defined by their gifts. They can be defined by who they are as a person. Meanwhile, Icarus just sort of realizes he's wrong and flies into the sun. And I can understand suicide when someone realizes grief. Like, it's in the Bible too. Judas does this to himself when he realizes the grief or the guilt that comes over him for killing Jesus. And it can work, but Eternals does it so badly, so poorly, so terribly, because they only do it so that they can make an allusion to a Greek myth. That's basically the only reason they kill him. They only make Icarus kill himself to make a fun callback to the Greek myth. They don't do it with the intent of actually providing a deep character arc, which is why Icarus really, really sucks as a villain. And Abuela Alma is a really cool villain because she's not really a villain. She's just the antagonist of the movie. Okay, enough of that villain talk, okay? Let's talk about death, okay? Because, you know, death, everyone experiences it eventually. Both movies handle death in different ways, and I feel like Encanto does it way more reverently than Eternals. So, with Encanto, Abuelo Pueblo sacrifices himself in the flashback scene I was just talking about, and the death is a dramatic death, okay? The song Dos Oruguitos, or Two Caterpillars, I'm pretty sure, is playing in the background, and the song is emotional, the scene is emotional, and it feels like an earned death, even though we haven't met this guy, which, as you'll see with Eternals, it's a common theme for people to die before we've met them with these two movies. But we haven't really met Pablo, but we've seen a lot of him and who he is in the flashback montage, and why he's important to Abuela. So that's still an emotional scene. Meanwhile, in Eternals, it's so disrespectful how they kill off Ajax and Icarus. Like, Ajax, we don't even meet her before we find out she's dead, and they got a really big A-list actress, Salma Hayek, to play her, and they just kill her off like nothing. And we haven't even met the character, so there's no emotion there in seeing her die. Like, what's the point? It's terrible, okay? And in Icarus, like I said, his death feels really forced. If they wanted to do a suicide thing, they could have done it with some respect for, like, yeah, a respectful character arc if he was gonna kill himself. But they didn't do that. Instead, they decided we're gonna make an allusion to a Greek myth because we're cool like that. Thank you, Marvel. That was terrible, okay? And the only death in Eternals that was at least somewhat reverent and well executed was Gilgamesh. Because Gilgamesh, we'd already seen him earlier in this movie. We understood he was one of the, I'd say, the best Eternal. He was the most morally right of all the Eternals. And he gave himself up for someone he loved, for Fina. So his death was actually impactful, and the rest of the deaths in that movie were stupid. Not to mention Crow, the Deviant, who just got killed off like nothing. So yeah, both movies handle death in radically different ways. Eternals does it very reverently and respectfully when it talks about someone dying, and not Eternals, Encanto does it very reverently and respectfully in terms of someone dying. And Eternals does it in a sloppy, stupid, cash grabby way. Except for Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was a good death. So Eternals, you get that 1 point. And finally, both movies handle exiled members, and with Encanto, we all know it's Bruno. He gets exiled because of his gift, and they handle this pretty deeply. They have that amazing song that's actually a madrigal. If you don't know what a madrigal is, I'm pretty sure. It's like a musical piece where many people sing different choruses or different lines that all go together, which is exactly what We Don't Talk About Bruno is. So yeah, the music is expert. But the point is, Bruno as a character is important to the movie, and Bruno being exiled is handled really well because it shows, it deals very deeply with the theme of the movie, which is you don't have to live up to pressure too much. You can just be yourself. Pressure is bad on people, especially labeling someone as gifted and someone as not gifted. It can really hurt people mentally, whether they are the gifted one or the non-gifted one. So that it handles the theme really well because Bruno was gifted, but then due to the pressure everyone gave him to perform or whatever, and the hate everyone gave him, he isolated himself, and it was mostly due to Abuela Alma. So it really works in well with the theme of the movie. Meanwhile, we have Fina, who's isolated or exiled or whatever in Eternals, and I honestly kind of like this subplot with her and Gilgamesh, like I was talking about earlier, but it's still not as good as the way Encanto does it, because whatever that thing's called, that disease they get, mad weary or something, that Eternals get, it doesn't play into the theme of the movie that much. It's more of just something else for the movie to adapt from the comics, and it's not terrible, but it's not great, and I feel like Bruno was handled way better as an exiled member of his team. And with that being said, the music's obviously better in Encanto. What did you expect? It's a musical versus a Marvel movie, and it's not a Guardians movie, so yeah. And without further ado, remember to like, subscribe, and comment down below which of these movies you like better, and we know it's Encanto, and why you liked it better, and why you didn't like Eternals. And thank you for listening to this video, and sorry for talking about Bruno, but it's only been like 10 minutes, so don't worry, I won't talk about Bruno from now on. JM Comics, out.